Dear Pamela, it has been a hectic but wonderful year here at the Academy. So we are honored to have you as our guest because it's not over yet, and not just honored, I think it's the right moment for you to be here. Pamele Whitaker, Dr. Whitaker, is a lecturer in art psychotherapy at the Belfast School of Art. We met through our doctoral student, Jasmina Verček. That is also our doctoral student. We share you, so thank you. Then we debated what to do for this lecture. And at the end we decided it is best to let you introduce to us the concept of Ecologies of Care. Not just the concept, also the practices, but I'm sorry there's not too much people here today.
No, that's fine.
And in other words, as I wrote to myself, is for you to give us tools to encourage and generate mutual supports and shared hospitality, which I think is something we really need now. And thank you very much.
No, you're welcome.
The stage is yours.
No. Thank you, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I know a number of you need to leave early, so I'll get started, and sorry for the delay because I got this wonderful tour of the Academy at a really wonderful time, just before the end of your show, and a kind of an exciting time where people are preparing, I guess, their finale of their time here. So I work at the Belfast School of Art and I teach in art psychotherapy. But my practice isn't clinical. I don't work with people in rooms. I work in public places. Belfast is a very interesting city. For one reason, it has a legacy of 30 years of conflict, the Troubles, and really now the reparation or the recovery is happening through public practice art or socially engaged art. And it's happening primarily through festivals. So in Belfast, nearly every week, there's more than one festival, which is kind of unusual, isn't it? Because you think, how does a festival connect with the recovery from conflict? But really, the festivals bring people together from different parts of the cities who wouldn't mingle together. So it brings together communities of strangers. And I guess that's the place I'm interested in working as an art therapist. So I'm what I've called a public practice art therapist, somebody who is very interested in creating events or gatherings in civic society, as opposed to a private clinical room. So in our training in art therapy, we train our students to be community practitioners all the way to be clinical practitioners. So in this theme of public practice or community art therapy, I have been working on this idea of ecologies of care. Really what it means is developing public home places or places where people can feel comfortable in society. And I'm working on quite a large research project which is working with people, with experts with lived experience of long-term mental health conditions and where they feel comfortable in society and where they don't feel comfortable. And for example, if we look at galleries and museums, oftentimes for this community of people, they don't feel that that's a place for them because they don't even feel they have a right to cross the doorway, to enter that space because of internalized feelings of stigma, of not feeling good enough, of worrying I won't understand what the art is about. So this idea of creative hospitality and ecologies of care is kind of ethics for the arts, but also in higher education, because I know a number of you are teaching in higher education. I would use this model with my students in the classroom as well, because a lot of students don't feel comfortable crossing the doorway into a classroom. I don't know if it's the same for you in Slovenia, but in Northern Ireland, we have much higher rates of anxiety, mental health concerns with students who even showing up or don't even want to show up in person anymore into the university. They're used to being online, for example. They want to be at home. So the idea is to make them feel more at home when they enter, to create tables, display tables where they can kind of regulate or compose themselves before they can learn even, if that would resonate at all. Also, the idea of creative hospitality comes into play here. Creative hospitality is an idea of the arts, creating like events. It could be food, it could be making things, where people come to a community table. And this is an example of a community table here. And it's a community table with a map on it. These are people of asylum seekers. This is in Paris. It's an outdoor space. It's facilitated by a group of art therapists, and the organization is called Art Refuge. And the community table has typewriters, blocks, materials, found objects, and people can make together at a table. And this idea of the community table comes into play with Ecologies of Care. So how can care be displayed? And I like the idea of people starting to think of their home environments as ecologies of care, and then bringing this idea out into the public realm. So if you're an artist, like I was just in Centre Rogue this morning, and they have this ethos that, everybody is welcome, everybody's welcome at any time. You can bring your children, you can bring your pet. There's places that you can access for free. And I'm really interested in how this starts off in our home environment as well, and how we can create absorption and safety for ourselves, like psychological first aid, with the collections that we have in our life, our life materials, our life studios, what we can bring to our tables at home. And then this is my own PhD researcher, who lives in Liverpool. She looks at illustrated domestic items and setting up tables for people to talk, to people to get to know each other. Again, these communities of strangers coming into public spaces. This is an art center in Pasadena, California, and I love the food at the table and the children, and just this mishmash of materials and people kind of on top of each other. But this is another example of a public home place as well. But Ecologies of Care is really alive in Slovenia. And you'll see at the very bottom here, ecologiesofcare.org. And I'm saying their name, I'm mispronouncing their names. So Urska? German, and Elke Kranzi from Slovenia developed this website called Ecologies of Care, and this is their work with women as care practitioners and artists. And they said that the meaning of care is cure and curation. And to me, these are interventions in society where you don't need a ticket, where you don't need Eventbrite, like they're pop-ups. I really like pop-ups. And I like to be in a place where people are already there. Like a park, for example. A civic park is always there when people need it. And often if people are feeling at a loss, they'll go for a walk perhaps to a park. A library is another really good example, I think, as well. We have a public park in Belfast, which is not anywhere near the grandeur of Centre Road, but it has the same philosophy that it's a hangout place. It's a place where in the winter you could go to get warmth, for example. But they talk about feminist engagements and new imaginaries of care. And I really love this example from Rosario Tallevi, who's also a member of this group, and they're all around the EU. But just to say that this is very much a practice also in Slovenia. This is Belfast. And on the left here is our public home place. It's right in the centre of the shopping district. And if you think about a shopping district, it's hard to hang out in the shopping district because you have to buy things. So where do you go with your children, or if you need a hot spot, or hot desking, or to get warm, as I mentioned already, or just if you're a community group, to have a free space to meet. So the ukulele group would meet here. There would be textile groups who would meet here. But performance artists meet here. On the left-hand side, one of these people in this picture is our head of school at the Belfast School of Art. Can you guess? It's the man on the top, on the left, with the wreath. This group of people is very involved in the teaching in the Belfast School of Art. They're called Be Beyond. 50 years ago in Belfast, Joseph Beuys came to Belfast at the height of the Troubles. So the Belfast School of Art is located in city centre, in the middle of a kind of a bomb zone. Joseph Beuys came. He did one of his public lectures. He also came to the museum. Then he went to Cork in Ireland. It was 50 years ago. So we just had an anniversary of his visit. Because of that visit 50 years ago, the whole idea of the social sculpture, the legacy of that is still alive in Northern Ireland. This is just very, very recent. This happens with some frequency. This is kind of a part of my working day. They come and do these public events. They have performance art festivals, and they're connected, ironically, because we're in a building with sculpture, they're connected into expanded sculpture. So the body as material, and in this case, they're in a public space, but they would be in outdoor public spaces as well. And they bring people into their performance. So if you happen to be watching a few minutes later, they kind of tie you up with the wool, and they bring you in. On the right-hand side is, can you see that okay? You're okay to see that? That's the Irish Museum of Modern Art, a big festival. And again, this is outside in a shopping district as well, the man with hope. And I think what's very interesting about the idea of performance art is they're bringing people who don't know each other into spaces that belonged to one affiliation or another, one political affiliation or another. So Belfast is entirely split up. There are still peace walls in Belfast that divide communities, so communities and their neighbourhoods. They're really, really high. If you ever go to Belfast, you can do a tour of the peace walls. And they also have, you will see either British flags or you will see Irish flags. And people don't cross. Still, that legacy is there. So you think about the Berlin Wall and you think this is all... We took it down a long time ago, right? And you think this can't be happening still. It's very much still in Belfast. You might have seen, I don't know, sometimes you don't even know that they are peaceful. They look like high security fencing, but that's the purpose. And particularly this time of year, there's a lot of bonfires with the Protestant or the loyalist community. And there's lots of marching, and it's actually quite dangerous if you don't know where you are in Belfast. So the Belfast School of Art so what this group does, it brings people into physical contact with each other through this kind of linking, if you like. But what it does as well is it develops curiosity. And curiosity and learning develops our neuroplasticity. So it's like the message that people grew up in Belfast with is keep your head down, don't say anything. So what you get from that is this, right? Physically, keep your head down, don't say anything. So here's a group that is trying to put people's head up and to make contact with people who you don't know their affiliation, their life story. So there's a lot of kind of and also to be less inhibited, I guess, as well as a therapeutic practice. So very interesting group. Here's my students. I like flowers. I use a lot of flower, we use flowers for the beginning of our time together. The first day, induction day, the students will bring flowers as a flower portrait. They decorate each other with flowers. Again, they're making contact with each other. They don't even know each other. And they do flower portraits. And then this is also at the end of the year as well. And again, you don't see him here, but my head of school will show up. They paint him. They do face painting, they put flowers on him. So this is kind of an ethos of our place. And on the right-hand side, they're making candles. So it's this idea of activating spaces. And it's all about generating a health landscape and a sense of belonging and mattering within a university space, which is also can be a civic home place as well. This movement is also in Montreal. This is a community art studio in the Museum of Fine Arts. In Montreal, this is my colleagues in art therapy began this art hive movement. The Museum of Fine Arts in Montreal, I think certainly in Canada, but maybe internationally, is one of the first museums where a doctor can prescribe going to an open studio, going to the museum as a prescription, so a social prescription. And they have then the welcome is actually the tours, as you enter the building, hi, how are you? You have a navigation through exhibitions and the space that makes people feel comfortable. And also they have these public engagements in what they call these drop-in open studios. There's some more as well. These art hives aren't only in a gallery or museum, they're also in shops or old storefronts. So in a neighborhood, a place that used to be a shop, they have the big windows in the front. This is the spaces where community members of all ages can go and drop in. So these are both places in Montreal. So this is shared access to resources, everything on the table, everyone having a place on the table. And, an opportunity to kind of order all of the chaos that all of us bring to bear. And, we all live with loss, I guess. And, that could be bereavement or loss in terms of, life not turning out as we had planned. We're weathering a storm in our life in some way. And so we that's part of the human condition. And oftentimes I find, and my community studios would be in gardens. I use gardens and parks a lot. It's quite interesting, the regularity of people talking about being at odds or feeling at loss or mourning somebody. And, they're talking about it, but they don't know anybody. They're coming and sharing because the space feels comfortable to share human experience. This is a project my own students do, creating the home centerpiece. So looking at this idea of working with what you already have, not needing anything more in your life, is a therapeutic idea that they take in with working with their clients. I was saying to Jasmina, I don't buy art materials. I haven't bought art materials from our course since 2018. That's 7 years. That's very unusual in an art college. We use recyclable materials. We share materials. Materials are not just your artwork. you co-create, or you would use, say, sculptural materials. I mean, like they're from a recycling center. You make something, you might photograph it. You bring materials from home. We work with natural materials. We work in gardens. We work with photography. We work a lot with walking. We work with the city being the studio. So I don't buy things from an art shop. And there's a message in there for working with people, because we all have more than enough probably at home. We'll do a little experience in a few minutes in the back table of what we've brought with us today, with what we carry with us. And there's a kind of a message in that, as I already mentioned, we already enough, we're not lacking. This is a nice way of getting people in your own home. And it was one thing about teaching in COVID, that you entered each other's. There was a great intimacy with the Zoom. Do you remember that? And if you didn't blank out, some people will fog out their back or put another backdrop in it. But I always felt it was really lovely to enter and to see people's pets. And I worked with a colleague with a background in ceramics, archaeology, and anthropology, and he talked about the material culture of what we have, of curating our possessions and belongings. And this is just a really kind of a powerful message, I think, with being with what we already have. So homemaking is an extension of ourselves, and our worldly goods are our artifacts, our archaeology of our life, if you like. Heirlooms, things that we've bought, things that we've been gifted, but also, our toiletries, our domestic items of every day. So what do we live with and carry with us that are our mementos, our trinkets? And this is a very interesting image from an artist called Desiree Corral, and it's called The Living Table. And she creates these living tables as kind of what I would call potlucks. Everybody is invited to an art center or a public space with just whatever you have in your pantry, in your shelves, bits and pieces of food in your fridge, and bits and pieces of what you have in your home. And you all create a meal together, and you all create the decorations together, and you have no idea what the outcome will be. And I think it's just a lovely idea of collaboration with strangers. I love this so much. I don't know if you've seen this before. It's called I Made a Still Life Every Day for 30 Days During Lockdown. And it's an series of Instagram posts by Inshra Russell. But don't you love this with the cleaning products? The banana peel, and on the far right, some of her children's toys with some of the leftovers, dishes from breakfast. And this is really not about having to declutter your house, but really to honor that clutter as your life story or your visual journal. So I love these two pictures on the right. And looking at these trinkets and the handmade and these life landscapes, I think are really, really exciting as an art installation, as a site-specific art installation, as a performative space as we move through our home space. And these are the ideas that I am taking into public life. And I think I like working with things that are kind of homespun and understandable for people. I love these two images by Sahim Caesar of these ideas of this home spaces installations. Some of you may know Jarek Jarman studio. I don't know if anyone, it's on my to-do list to go and visit. Have you been? No, but
I came to him through his garden.
So most of you might know his work from the garden, which is again an installation of found objects with very little soil, and the nuclear power plant there in the far back. But so Derek Jarman was a filmmaker who created this house, I guess, at the end of his life, as he was living with AIDS. But It's quite beautiful, his installations and table-based displays. And you can go and visit, and you can go for an art residency there as well. So I wanted to read this passage from a book from Sarah Baum, who's on the left, and she's an Irish writer and artist living in Cork. And it's a passage she wrote about her father after he had passed away. After he died, my mum took photographs of all the things he had scratch built around the house and garden and inside his sheds. Machinery, furniture, paths, customized polytunnels and greenhouses, as well as dozens of items that were unclassifiable. They were old and new, rusted and painted, broken and fixed and refixed. They were made from parts of things he had made previously and sundered and remade. My mom collaged the photographs inside a large frame and gifted it to me. A strange portrait of my dead dad's material testimonial. A compendium which is an autobiography. See what he made, my mom was trying to say. See the things and places in which he still lives. I'll make my home in my routine, and this will be enough for me. A house sympathetic to my preoccupations and repetitions and observances, a house whose walls and floors and furniture persistently order themselves around my daily practices, my daily handiwork. This is a really beautiful book, Handiwork. In her whole home, she sets up studio places. Now, we're not talking in the same way as an academy, but in the corner of her living spaces, so that everywhere you work, you make, whatever you make. And in this book, she talks about that it's kind of a choreography of movement in all of these stations. It's a beautiful, stunning book, and she's a visual artist as well. I highly recommend it. So I'll just show you these very, very quickly, and let's then spend a few minutes in the back of our room. This is just showing you my garden, which is my studio. These all went into an exhibition space and are going to be planted in a public garden in Northern Ireland. Some of you might be aware of Francis Bacon. If you're ever in Dublin, his studio has been reconstructed at the Hugh Lane Gallery, which you can see on the left there. But his studio space was overwhelming with material, as a material installation, if you like. But his home on the right had a particular kind of order. I feel at home in both chaos and order because chaos suggests images to me. I like to live among the memories and the damage. I thought that was really beautiful in terms of our material life, also having what we regret or the losses or the complexities of what didn't go well, I think, and that we still live with also. In terms of these material collections. This is somebody's house in Ireland. Is this not fabulous? I love this. And it's near a beach. Like, it's a stunning example of using your home as a public installation, and the objects there. You can enter, but they have the CCTV camera and even the bed there outside. So I thought that was a wonderful composition. Some of you would know anthropologist Tim Ingold, who talks about our engagement with cultural and personal artifacts, the agency, the activation of the home studio. I thought that was just a wonderful example of outsider art. Maybe harder to see there, but that is a public community garden in Dublin. It's composed of suitcases and chairs, and the polytunnel, or that rounded building, is where people actually gather. So the growing is more ideas and communication. You don't see plants. People plant their objects in this public space. I think it's absolutely this conglomerate of parts. I think it's stunning. And it's a lovely still life composition, as well as a community practice. This artist uses the collections so people would give to her, Catherine Jones, for example, collections, the artifacts from their mother who has died. And she makes these memory boxes. But isn't this stunning, do you think? The lipsticks, the hairbrushes, the ornaments, as the navigation points of the life of that woman, but also now operating as support structures and symbolism for the family. I think it's a beautiful practice, very sensitively curated. So just more of an idea of assemblages of the everyday material culture. I do a workshop on Ecologies of Care for members of the general public. I just did one in an art centre, and I've done it with people who have finished cancer treatment. And it's the idea of creating these installations in your home, so that the home oftentimes can be a place of a to-do list, maybe. My home sometimes feels like a to-do list, meaning I see repairs, clothes to be washed, dishes to be washed, bills to be paid. Does that make sense? Maybe, I don't know if you're the same. So sometimes it's hard for me to relax. It's like I have to be doing something in that space or organizing something. So the idea with the members of the public is that they create, with what they already have, these places of sanctuary and solace. Because if we can look at places, I love the rhubarb in that jar, if we can create with what we already have, and particularly with nature, there are places, I guess the research has shown, of attention restoration as well. And it can be places of resilience, and we can be proud and have a sense of pride of place, rather than thinking our place isn't good enough and what we have isn't good enough. And that's where that still life photography with the objects from home is really, really interesting as well. Artist Mark Harold, I like things that are decorative and theatrical. So he thinks of this as a staging. It's a formation of energy when you put these unusual objects all over the place. The image on the right is from somebody who doesn't have a home. It's from Barcelona. Again, the care and the pride of their objects in a very public space, I thought was really, admirable. It's a really stunning piece. The left is just bric-a-brac from my own home, but it's the one on the right that I think is really gorgeous. So there's another example from an artist and her objects. So how we spend our days at home with what we have as our objects of life materials is how we live our life. And I think, it's important to to think, do we feel comfortable in our own selves and our own environments? And I was thinking that, sometimes in our homes, and maybe certain times of the year, we decorate the house. Like it has to be for a special occasion. But if our daily life is our life, then it's trying to think of making special, giving a sense of occasion to the everyday. That really kind of interests me as a therapist, but as well as an artist as well. And this idea of festivity and making special is, I guess, what I'm trying to engage in with people in public spaces. So I thought we could give this a go today. At the back of the room, we have 2 tables that we can consider community tables. And what you see here is the everyday carry of an artist and animator called Hannah O'Neill. And this is the contents of her handbag, or her satchel, or her knapsack. And she's carefully laid out what she requires for day-to-day life. But what we're carrying, actually, I would suggest, gives us a sense of feeling composed or at ease or competent in what we need to get up to in everyday life. Like, everyday life in a way is a bit of an achievement. And I'm not just talking about work, like the to-do list of work. But if you think of, for many people, what we make of each day, you know, is kind of vital in terms of can they bring themselves out there, to be out there in the world. And sometimes what we carry with us can help support that. If that makes a little bit of sense. So, you know, and sometimes if you don't bring something with you in your day, like you forget something, you can think, oh no, you could feel a little bit at odds or something like that. So, everyday carry is often a term, EDC. I don't know if everybody has heard of it, EDC. It's used by preppers or survivalists. I'm not too sure what the word is in Slovenian, in the Slovenian language, but preppers, who worry about the end of the world. And so you would stock up on food, or you have a knapsack if you have to evacuate. You have stored food, you have a torch, you have a clothing, a tent. You're ready to go if you need to go, if the world kind of falls apart. You can survive for a period of time. But I think that everyday carry is also applicable to how we survive in the everyday world as well. And yeah, we could look at it as a portable studio. And I would be very interested as an art therapist what people carry, and they could photograph this. So we were talking about the home, but this is also what people carry with them. And also, you know, what if there was anything artistically that could be made, like, you know, we talk about sometimes fidget objects or comfort objects that can be made as an artistic practice, like even like I'm thinking of jewelry as well, would be one for me, that wearable art that people can feel comfortable with, that makes them feel more at home in the world, or even to celebrate, you know, who they are as well. So this is my proposal. These are useful items that we bring with us in the everyday. How can we personalize? This is a public space. I think it's a cozy public space, but we can personalize it even more so. Could we do a bit of show and tell and curate with some objects that you've brought with you today on the back table? Like even for 5 minutes, you don't have to take everything out of your bag, only what you feel comfortable with. But would you like to try, and so this is what kind of an Ecology of Care table would be even in a classroom. And I invite students to not really only just empty out their bags, but they would know that the Ecology of Care table's happening, and they would bring food and materials from home. And they make it as the first part of their day. Yeah. Would you like to try it for a few minutes? Or I know some of you who has to leave at 2? I have to. You have to. Okay. We're going to try this for 3 minutes. Okay. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I think some of you know, many of you have to go. 3 minutes. Please, you don't have to talk to anybody. Just do it in silence for 3 minutes and put yourself on the table. Anything from your handbag or your knapsack that you would like to share. Exactly what you see. So it's not like trying to think of a poem like it's a symbolic representation. So pen, key ring, something next to umbrella, something like that. Or however you see it, so you're documenting. It's like a word photograph, if that makes sense. Just for a few minutes. Just write down, it could be notes on your phone, and then we're going to share that as a group to close, and then a couple of minutes just to debrief. So just pinpointing and writing down notes, sketch notes, word notes of what you see. What you catch a shadow. think we all have a few lines. Let's just share what we saw on the table. So I'll start. Coffee drip, silent bell, crumpled receipt, a key, make up.
Zadržnik veliko zelene, bela spodelica, ključ od mene, ogledalce negativnih starih časov, beri smutni,
Keys, 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 spoon with a knife, scarf, snacks, lipstick, umbrella, pills, and a cup. Mixtures of batteries, utilities like shopping, like wallets, hairpins, rain, a lot of rain, mobility, a lot of car keys.
Vidim tudi slovensko, pogledala čako, pisala in notese, pripomočki za hrano in za nego, make-up in različne fetiše.
V slovenščini, ali sem se nekaj prvo nekako. Kaj dela video pod zelenim dežnikom? In kako bi bilo, če bi razlila tam smuti po vložku, ter si z lesenim nožem razmazala puder po nosu? How it will be if this animal would use this umbrella? And how
Green umbrella,
green umbrella, yes. And I would like to put the smoothie on the
centipede, how it's called?
centipede, and with this wooden knife, I would like to put on my nose the powder. Just natural.
Uporabne stvari.
Yeah.
Very good experience. Thank you so much. And you can see where this can start to go.
Yes.
Because in a way you've just revealed yourselves, and then what you put on the table. If it was more, if it was something people could touch or eat, then you can see that something from your home, say you brought a piece of bread or something, and I'm consuming that. Different directions I can go. Do you want to make photographs before